Some YouTubers and even some baristas I know claim that Abaca makes better coffee, but is it really better? And more importantly, is the difference actually noticeable for an average hobbyist like us? The Abaca filter costs about 50% more than the classic Hario. I've been using it for a few weeks, and in the beginning I also thought that my cups were tasting better. Cleaner, brighter, more complex, but after a while I started to have doubts. Over the last weeks, I ran several tests, and today I'll show you side-by-side comparisons for more objective and fair results. The first test that I'll make are around rinsing versus not rinsing. Do they really taste the same? If I don't rinse, how much water does the filter actually absorb, and does it affect the extraction? Next, I'll compare side-by-side the traditional Hario versus Abaca. A lot of people say that Abaca drains faster, that some festival filters deliver a cleaner and more aromatic cup with better separation of notes. Another frequent conclusion is, oh, filter A drains faster, the cup is fruitier, but I was wondering if what they call fruitiness is actually just acidity, not necessarily more complexity or better compounds, you know what I mean? So I had a theory that may be a little controversial, but I tested, I'm not guessing. Then, let's get into the tests and, more importantly, the conclusions you came here for. Let's begin with the basics. Do we actually need to rinse the paper filter? If you didn't see it, James Hoffman tested 9 different V60 filters and concluded that with modern bleached papers, rinsing isn't needed anymore. If he cannot taste the difference, it's very likely that we average hobbyists will not either. But, of course, I had to check myself. And to reflect what really happens in my cup, instead of soaking the filters for 5 to 10 minutes like Hoffman did, I simulated 2 brews without coffee, one with a pre-rinsed filter and one without rinsing. Same timings, same water volumes, exactly the same recipe as I would brew coffee with. And here comes the first surprise. Or maybe not. First, pure water. Let's see the smell. Smells the same. Rinse it. No difference. Honestly, nothing. No difference between pure water, water from the rinsed filter, and water from the non-rinsed filter. Let's go to the second test. Now I'm testing with real coffee. First, I weighed the dry filter versus the rinsed one. I checked it and I saw that it holds about 4.2 grams of water. Then I brewed 2 coffees, one with a pre-rinsed filter and one without rinsing, using my standard V60 recipe. It's a simplified version of Tetsukazuya's 4 to 6 method. I just reduced it from 4 pours to 2 because sometimes I'm a bit lazy. And one day I tried, liked it, and it became my default. I call it Lazy Kazuya, but of course that I am the lazy, not Kazuya. But back to the point, I ground 2 batches of 10 grams of coffee using my ZP6 in the number 4, the settings. Then I poured 20 grams of water in the first, then in the second. In the 30-second mark, I poured more water up to 107 grams. Then in the 1-minute mark, I completed until about 170 grams. It's a 1 to 17 ratio, water at 90 degrees, and a good water, of course, with TDS around 40 ppm. And if you didn't see my video about the importance of water, I'll leave a card here for you to check. And when I tasted, again, no difference. Yeah, no difference, which means that those 4.2 grams of water absorbed by the filter don't seem to matter much in practice. I repeated this recipe 3 times, this test 3 times, twice with medium light roasts and once with a medium roast with the same outcome every time. You can compensate those 4.2 grams, but I don't believe that it makes a difference. But now, let's compare the performance of Hario versus Avaka. We'll make 2 tests. In the first, same grind size and recipe. In the second, I'll adjust the grind to match the extraction times. Same flow doesn't always mean same extraction percentage, but we'll see how they compare in taste. First test, Abaca versus Hario. The same grind size, same water, same temperature, same everything. Now, let's test. With the same grind size in both, Abaca was indeed faster, and yes, the cups tasted slightly different. Both nice, and I can tell you that I prefer this one that was made with the Abaca paper filter by a small margin, but just because it's a little bit fruitier, it has a bit more acidity. The one that I brewed with Hario is sweeter, I would say. Yeah, I think it's sweeter, but there isn't a big difference, to be very honest. But the final and most important question to answer, at least for me, is if I grind finer to match the extraction time, does Abaca produce a much better cup? Because if it costs us 50% more, I expect a significant improvement. Let's try to match the times now. For the Hario, I ground 10 clicks coarser. 3 seconds difference. Let's see. Let me get some water. Again, I'll go straight to the conclusions, just showing here the differences in extraction times and adjustment in my ZP6. So after grinding 10 clicks coarser for the Hario, the extraction time was only 3 seconds faster with Abaca. So essentially the same. And my most honest conclusion is that the difference is pretty small. I think this one that I brewed with Abaca is a bit clearer, but very slightly different, and I can only notice because I'm drinking side by side. And sure, you could say it's because I'm not a curator, I'm not James Hoffman, and you're right. I'm just an average hobbyist who studies a lot and is really passionate about coffee, and this average hobbyist here needs to tell you that in a blind test, maybe I wouldn't be able to tell them apart. The difference is very small. And here's the even more honest part. Before doing the side-by-side tests, I really believed that Abaca was giving me better cups, cleaner, fruitier, more complex. And after the tests, it became obvious the feeling that it was placebo. So I think I was influenced by what other people were saying, maybe also by the higher price, which often tricks the brain. Maybe I wanted to confirm that it has that premium feeling. And just to be clear, I'm not criticizing the ones who are having better experiences with Abaca. If in your experience it improves your coffee, go for it. That's what really matters. Your cup, your joy with your rituals and gear, your taste, your happiness. But in my case, I didn't notice a big difference. So I'm not paying 50% more on Abaca filters. And honestly, that was the biggest lesson for me in this experiment, how expectation, hype, and price can shape our perception of flavor, and why testing side by side is so important to find our truths. So don't believe me, test yourself and share your perceptions in the comments. I would love to hear more from the hobbyists, not the specialists. And now I'm wondering, should I test the even more expensive Seaburst filters next? What do you think? Or you're more interested in espresso machine battles like this, or grinder reviews like this? Tell me in the comments what you want to see next, and see you in the next video. Ciao! Really nice coffee.